I knew I loved entertaining. I knew it gave me the greatest pleasure. Pcap, I think, is the most challenging and the ultimate form of performance. Like the first time I experienced that was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This feels like I'm like doing theater. My thing has always been acceptance. Within each of us is the capacity to be everybody. So it's just sort of giving everyone a space to be themselves and space to also not be perfect. And along the journey, you discover what works for you. For BD, it's trying to bring like an emotional content to those beeps. And then the marvelous actor Debra Wilson was like, hey, nose whistle, that's what you need, it's a nose whistle. And it's like,
hello and welcome to the Actors Volume. I'm Matthew Brazina.
And I'm Jeff Berg. In this episode, we sit down at Rouge Studios with Gideon Emery. Gideon is a pcap, TV, and voice actor that you may know as Fenris in Dragon Age 2, Balthier in Final Fantasy 12, and BD-1 in the Jedi Fallen Order series, and many more.
Gideon is a gifted actor who has followed his love of performance across countries and has built an incredible career. He can bring humanity to any character on the spot, whether it's human, alien, or even an adorable droid. I can't express how much he makes our day whenever he's in the volume, and I am certain that he will make your day by the end of this episode.
We hope you like our conversation with Gideon, and thank you for watching the Actors Volume. To help us make more of this content, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. And now, enjoy the show.
All right, so Gideon, I'm so excited to have you on here.
Here it is.
Yes, we have worked together for quite a while on a couple projects, and this is very exciting because we haven't gotten a ton of time to sit down and hear about you. And then this is also the first time you and Jeff are meeting.
that's true.
Such a pleasure.
I'm so thrilled to be here. I love. Yeah, I always love coming here and working with you, and it feels like it always feels like a family, And I feel like that's a rare thing to find. There's like one TV show I worked on where I walked in and from day one it felt like a family. And it's like, man, it just makes it so much easier. You know?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Let's kind of hear about where you're from and what life was like growing up, because I know you're from South Africa, right?
So born in the UK, born in England, and then as a young boy I moved to South Africa with my folks. My dad got a job there. And grew up largely in Johannesburg. And then I went back for a little bit of high school to the UK.
Why were you moving around so much?
Well, sort of during sort of the tail end of apartheid and sanctions and stuff, there was a whole brain drain and a lot of companies pulled out. So my dad's job was, he was a headhunter for computer companies like ICL and IBM. Computer Sciences, I think, was the one that brought him out.
And what year was this?
When we moved out.
Yeah,
I'll
like
age myself. So late 70s.
Oh, okay, got it.
Into the 80s. And so his business was just like him and a secretary, basically, But he would hunt people for like management positions at computer firms. And so it got really tough in the like late 80s, for a lot of businesses. And so we moved back to the UK for a little bit. It didn't work out. It was sort of even harder kind of thing. And then we came back, and it was interesting.
So in that time, like, did your family have an arts background?
No. My mum's mum was a visual artist, but not of sort of renown or whatever. Kind of like a hobby, I suppose.
Yeah.
I love drawing and sketching and stuff.
You're very good at it.
Travel, thank you.
Yeah, just to let you know, Jeff, he always, like, in between, while we're shooting stuff, you'll always see Gideon sketching stuff on the side, and he always just gives people little sketches of themselves.
Oh, wow.
If there's like a little moment and I've got a pen and stuff, then I'll sort of catch, it's like one of the like camera operators, and I'll do like a little thing, and it's,
Is that kind of like a meditative
it can be,
like,
for sure.
process
For sure, yeah. But I love it's just like a creative outlet. And like that, I'll sort of lean into that if I'm not working on camera or doing some of this. It's perhaps inappropriate to be sketching while I'm actually working something, but I was like, ooh, it's like the moment, takes me kind of thing. But I've always, you said sketching on the side, like sketching on the side of my sides, I guess, my script. But I've done that, if I think about that, like since school, you know. But I suppose like a lot of kids, you know, sketch on the side of their notebooks and stuff. But like I remember like at university too, it's like I would always like be in like there's like long lectures, you know, that go on for like a couple hours and stuff, and I'd be doing sketches and stuff. And then when I started working and doing VO, I would always do a sketch on the copier because I did like a lot of commercial VO.
So then how did just being involved with arts transition into acting?
At school, like I did like school plays and stuff, and I loved that. And I was the class clown. Like early impressions, which will date me horribly because I'm an older guy. I remember there was Airwolf, that chopper, that like souped up chopper. Jan Michael Vincent was the thing. Ernest Borgnine was like the tech guy. This is 80s, fully mid 80s TV series. But anyways, I don't know if I can still do it, the sound. But basically, Airwolf is like this, gorgeous, military chopper or whatever. And it would take off. They kept it like in almost like one of those sort of smokestack kind of cooling tower type thingies. There was some sort of, I don't know, cylindrical thing in a cave somewhere, where no one would find it. They were like this private operation. They would go and like, not solve stuff, but do good deeds. This has got nothing to do with acting, but it's the birth of things. It's the birth of
your inspiration, yes.
So Airwolf would take off and then would like hit this like whatever speed it was, like Mach 1 or something, let's say. But he would make this very distinct sound, and they would always have this shot. It was probably like some RC, little thing that's maybe this big, jankily, flying in front of some set piece, but it would make this sound, forgive me sound, here it comes. I would kind of go like, it's like, and it would go whizzing by, and that was the sort of stuff I did for like my friends, that and like We Are the World, USA for Africa, that's 85, I think. And like I sang all the parts, and that was sort of entertaining. And was that Casey Kasem? American Top 40, Top 40. Today we've got a long distance dedication, and like do all those sort of things. And obviously we got, not obviously, but in South Africa we got lots of American TV content, which a lot of the world does. And so we grew up largely on that because we had like two TV channels growing up. And stuff like Miami Vice, I remember watching that, the original one, the series. And it was dubbed into Afrikaans, which was the only other official language in the 80s. So at night, and it was past my bedtime, I had to go to bed at 8 o'clock every night. And that broadcast at like sort of 9 or something at night. So my dad had, the VCR, and he would record, he was a really good dad. He would record the show on VCR, but you'd have to tune in on the radio on maybe AM to get simulcast or simulcast or whatever, and you'd get the soundtrack in English, the original. Oh. So then he'd have a cassette, and he'd have to go, okay, taping this, and then, okay, this is thing, we've got this going, and he'd have both of them, and then playback, pop it in, and you got to wait, and you go like, okay. And then what would happen is they don't play at quite the same speed, so it would drift.
Yeah.
So you'd have like, Crockett, look out,
So real quick, it just kind of sounds like TV, like early TV and everything, and just kind of participating in like school plays and stuff. That was kind of what was fueling you. In this.
And then also like I knew I loved entertaining, I guess, I don't like crowds of people. It's not like, hey, everyone gathered together, but I love to do funny voices, and obviously if people appreciate that, that's awesome. But I knew it gave me the greatest pleasure. So then I ultimately applied to university in Johannesburg, and I applied to fine art, and I applied to drama school, and I got into both, and then I had to make a decision, and for whatever reason, I figured that acting would be more profitable. It's like, what's your fallback career going to be? Even my dad was like that.
So did he have concerns about you pursuing
arts? For sure. My mom was always... I can relate to that. I was very lucky, though. My mom was always like, you must do what you love. Yeah. You should do something that you love. But I was also fortunate at drama school. So I went to like a traditional drama school, 4 years, BA, dramatic art honors thing, system, kind of like the British system. And you're learning, Stanislavski, Grotowski, you've got movement, you've got voice training. We were doing set building, We had even had actually a TV component as well for the first 2 years, and I mean vision mixing and stuff, so we could like shoot our own shows.
Interesting.
But I was lucky in my final year of drama school, I went to audition for a play, and only because a friend of mine was going, and her then boyfriend said, "Why don't you come along and stuff?" So I was like, "Oh, I'll come along," and it was like this pantomime, like there's like the annual panto, you know, like they have this very like a British tradition thing, you know, and this really famous actor at the time, Bill Flynn, a South African actor. I mean, amazing guy, super talented, dramatic and comedic genius.
Yeah.
Anyway, so him and Paul Slabelepsy, like two icons of South African theater. And anyway, he was playing the Dame. And I mean, he's like like big manly man, you know, like, and he was playing the Dame, and it was hysterical. And anyway, his agent came to watch, and he introduced me generously to his agent, and they happened to handle VO, which was kind of a rare thing for agents there. They didn't have separate agents, you know, until many years later. So I was lucky, and they were like, "Okay, we'll take you to go get a demo." And I already had my own that I'd created on like cassette, you know, this sort of thing. But obviously, I went to go to, you know, professional demo.
It's wild to think that you had to have a demo on cassettes.
Oh man, that was the thing. Then once I started working, then I got my DAT cassette. So if I went to a session, and I really liked that spot, I'd leave it with the engineer and go, "Hey, can you drop that? Can you drop that on my DAT, and I'll pick it up, you know, like tomorrow or something." He's like, yeah, sure. You know, so then I had like, you know, these great spots, or whatever spots I thought were good. And so I built my reel, you know, as I went. I wish I still had that. It'd be kind of fun to listen to.
That whole kind of picture that you gave us, were you in South Africa the whole time? Or had you?
Yeah. So I went back for a little bit of high school to the UK, and then I came back to South Africa and graduated there.
Okay. So were you like would you consider yourself a working professional while you were in South Africa? And then
100%. I was a working professional from my final year of drama school. So I was completely, the end of my third year, I auditioned for the Panto. It was at Christmas.
Yep.
Got into that. So December into like the early part of January, I was doing the show. And then studies picked up. And then fourth year's final year, you're doing your thesis, which I was doing on performance studies. Which my thesis was called Back Towards a Poor Theater. And this is now 1993. And I remember, so my whole thesis was, in order for theater to survive in a modern world, going back, you know, theater needs to return to the essence of what makes it unique and special, and that's the live event. So that was my angle, you know, because you're going to have the big musicals and that kind of stuff, but what makes like raw theater, black box theater, you know, really special is the notion that something is happening live in front of you, and it's one, you know, continuous take.
Yeah.
And it's live,
like
so that anything, like pcap, and anything can happen. But you can't, you know, you can't stop and, okay, now we're going to have to do another take. Oh, of course, in the glory of the luxury of on camera, it's like, okay, we'll pick it up from this point or something. And so that makes it exciting. And so I think that was the idea that going back to, you know, Grotowski and these, you know, sort of theater pioneers.
I am curious, because I kind of studied a little bit of theater in college, but I didn't actually like pursue it as a career, pursue it as an actual like degree. So, and Jeff, you can chime in on this too, but like, what do you feel like you got something out of going to an actual drama school?
100%.
And like, do you encourage other people to study it if they are interested in acting?
So yes and no. It's not essential.
Okay.
It's not necessary. However, it's incredibly beneficial in, you know, developing your voice. It's like, had I not gone to drama school, I wouldn't be able to play a theater, you know. I wouldn't have the wherewithal to, and unfortunately you see it if you go and watch, you know, some theater or 99-seat theater in LA and stuff, you know, and you see film actors, you know, putting on a thing, and not to diss, because there's lots of great theater in LA, there is. But, you know, if you're not sitting in the first 5 rows, you may not hear them, you know. because they haven't trained their voices, but it's more that they don't maybe know better or whatever, you know. So that's given me the ability to, you know, I can, you know, to move from here where you've got a lav to, you know, to a stage where there's, you know, 1,000-seat theater or something, you know, and not be shouting, but, you know, so have the command of your voice. I mean, and movement, and also knowing what other people did, set builders. It also gave me a respect for other people, you know, doing, you know, other things to make a production. Also, I mean, what we did find, actually, what was interesting too, there were 100 people in first year, and it gets whittled down. So my school kind of followed, which is not necessarily the best approach, where they kind of break you down in order to sort of build you up. And so, you know, you're doing like emotional work and this kind of stuff. And some of us, myself included, sort of relished that journey, but it's not necessarily the healthiest thing. And for
Are you talking about like method acting or something
yeah,
like
a little
that?
bit, you know, and you know, you know, exercises where you're, yeah, exactly, you know, you're tapping into emotional stuff, or you're going into a place that maybe you're not comfortable going, you know, not even talking like sense memory or stuff necessarily, but some people didn't like that, or weren't ready to be vulnerable, you know, or show stuff. And I mean, that's why like trust is such a huge thing. And when you're going to an acting teacher and this kind of stuff, which I kind of talk about in this thing I'm building. But so anyway, it got whittled down, not necessarily because of that, but some people did leave, like, oh, this is not for me, you know.
Yeah.
Some people realized, you know what, I'm not so much into the acting. I thought I was, but I love set building, man. I love, you know, and some people just got off into that. Like some people were like, I know I'm a director, and they stayed within the program, but then the third and fourth year, they majored in directing, you know.
Makes sense.
But it whittled down where in the final year, I think there were maybe 9 or 10 of us who were doing acting, you know, and, you know, there were a few of us doing other things, but there were maybe 20 graduates or something by the fourth year, something like that, you know. And of my year, I don't know of anyone else who's still acting. There was one.
really?
There was one other guy in my year
So you're the
who
lone
moved to New
survivor.
York and acted for a bit, and now he's in real estate. But I mean, I don't like wave a flag like I'm, you know,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
like I
Like
want
you're king
a,
of the
a
hill or
championship
whatever.
belt or
You
anything,
did it.
you know. But it's not, you know, it's not a journey for everybody, you know. And also some
Yes.
people perhaps come to the healthier realization, which perhaps I have not come to yet, where they're like, yeah, you know, it might be healthier for me and my sense of peace
Yeah.
to go, you know, maybe it's time to build props or some other outlet for my creativity or you know, something that's more sustainable and dependable and predictable.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And I do want to dig into that more a little bit later, but before we get too deep into that, I kind of want to back up a little bit and go back to your journey. And how did, especially if you were working in TV and VO and it sounds like theater while you were in South Africa. This is kind of a dual question, but like, where did video games fall into the picture? And were you already were you in the U.S. by then? Did you find that in the U.K. or?
So I worked for 10 years after drama school in South Africa. I knew pretty early on I wanted to come to LA. I was like, I want to come to Hollywood, man. I want to. And
Was it just because that's like the big Hollywood stars are there?
It was a little bit, not the stars, because I've never been like, the celebrity thing has never really been like a beacon, a shiny beacon. I don't mean that in a like sort of like all actors pursue that way, but it was more like stuff's happening here. Like this is the hub. If I want to go, it's like an athlete, you know, wants to test their ability. It's like I want to try out for the Olympics kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's that. Or I'm a runner, casual runner. It's like, man, I'm going to sign up for the marathon next year. I'm going to give myself 6 months and just see what I've got. You know, and for me, it's like I knew that there were roles I wanted to play. Back to drama school, the great thing about those 4 years is I got to play such a wealth of roles. I said, you still have to audition for everything at drama school. It's amazing. Like you'd see like audition thingies. I mean, occasionally a director would ask you to, will you come audition for my play? Because they're now, you know, 3rd or 4th year directors in your 1st or 2nd year, you know, drama student, acting student. But you'd still have to go and audition. So you're also learning that process too. Yep. And you also discovered, you know, your strengths and your weaknesses. What am I leading to?
Video games?
Video games, I've forgotten.
Oh, you had a point in between.
No, I did have a point of it's gone.
It's all good. If it comes back, you can
so
chime
far
in
back in time.
anytime.
All right.
Yes. But you were talking about why you came to LA to compete in the acting Olympics.
I knew that I wanted to have, that was it.
Yes. Okay.
Drama school, those 4 years gave all of us this little nest, this bubble to play such a myriad of roles. Which you wouldn't have. Like arriving here, they're like, oh, you're a character actor. And that was it. That's my box. You know, I'm character foreign guy, and I mean, or I'm character American guy. But like, it's like, okay, you look like this, and then you're in that, you know, the Rolodex in that type. At least initially, until you know, get familiar with casting people.
Build connections and friends.
Maybe consider you for something else. But like, I got to play, you know, Salieri in Amadeus on stage. You know, who's, well, maybe a little bit, written as a little bit older than I am now. But back then in drama school, I mean, I was, you know, 19 or whatever, you know, and I got to play this great role, you know, and great material. And
Some Chekhov?
didn't do Chekhov, actually.
No?
I did some Chekhov actually out here, funny enough. I mean, but yeah, just to have like something meaty and you could really test your range. You would discover your range and expand your range. And I think if you don't have that experience, you're unlikely to find it without it. You know, because if you go straight into the industry and you're, you know, you can learn the lines and you can bring something to a role, absolutely. But you might not know that, you know, oh, wow, I can do this, you know, because unless you're sort of stretched, you don't know what you're capable of, you know?
Yep. That makes sense.
So I knew I wanted to come here. I applied for a thing called an EB1, which is Alien of Extraordinary Ability. And I was lucky that after 10 years, I'd amassed quite a lot of press, and I would try and do like a play a year. And I was very lucky that I got some good press and, you know, put together my package and then I moved here.
Again, did you pick up in the same industries, or did you kind of start finding yourself more in film, or did you like find yourself in VO again right away?
I did get a VO agent right away, and this was my first time encountering games was in LA.
And what year was it?
So it was 03.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And my VO agent at the time, you know, sent me to go get demos and this kind of thing. And then it's like, you got to have the game, an animation demo, and you got to have your promo demo, and you got to have a commercial demo. And I was like, okay. And then we recommend you go to, you know, one of these three, you know, these guys were like $3,000 a demo. This is in 03.
Oh, wow.
This is in 03.
Yeah.
These guys were $1,000 a demo, and these guys were like 500 or something. So I was like, I'm going to go with these guys. Also as well, bear in mind, I'm coming from South Africa, where the South African rand is not a particularly strong currency. You know, it's like against the dollar, it's like, yeah, no, you know, and
so it was extra.
So it was, I mean, it was kind of a wild journey in retrospect, but I got a nice demo done. And then I think because I do like a lot of different accents, and I had that on my demo and I exploited that when my guys' agency sent it out, it was ideal for video games, you know, because there's a lot of stuff where I feel like it's less now, but certainly then there was like, okay, you can play a principal role, then you can play like 3 or 4 other roles in that same 4-hour session, VO session, you know? So those guys have to sound different, you know, and,
Makes sense.
you know, if you're going in for games where, you know, okay, so this guy's going to be American and like, this guy's going to be young, but he's going to be, you know, British and whatever and stuff. And if it's, you know, maybe some fantasy game or something, there's, you know, it can lean into that a lot and stuff. So, so I was lucky that I had that. So that gave me a little, I was a promo voice for, I booked some commercial for Mini Cooper. It was like the launch of Mini Cooper. And thank the angels, I had a website because I'd auditioned for this voice. And then it was Christmas, and everyone, you know, shuts up shop. Agency was closed, and then, and they were trying to get a hold of me to book me because the session was on like something at like 5th of Jan or something like that, you know,
Yeah.
and everything was closed.
Mm.
And I guess they didn't have like I don't know, if this is urgent, please call, you know, Jeff on his cell phone. So anyway, they Googled me, and then I had this website that I only had for like a year before I moved, because I'm going to have my stuff together. I'm going to have my like LA headshot before I even go. I'm going to format my resume, and I've been looking at
And
stuff
it's all
online
gonna
and
fall
ordering
into
books.
place perfectly.
And I had GideonEmery.com. And anyway, so they emailed me through there, and I was like, oh, thank goodness I had that, you know. So I was at the session, and I made some money, and that, you know, kept me alive for a couple months. And then, I started to book some video games. And I was like, this is great, man. This is fun, because it's not, I'd done like 10 years of commercial VO, and then I was doing acting on camera, and I tried to play a year to keep me honest, you know, which I really loved. But here, instead of like, now only $5.99, and there's more.
Yeah.
You know, instead of that, there was like, oh wow, there's a characters, and you know, when the writing is good, and the writing's gotten, you know, progressively better over time as people demand, you know, a more filmic product. It was great. Yeah. So I was the thing just lined up.
Yeah.
Time wise. Yeah.
Looking back, do you feel like your theater training was essential for video game work? Like I know you'd mentioned that
For
it's
sure.
not for everybody.
For mocap.
For
the
mocap?
volume,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
For the actor's volume.
For the there we go.
Most definitely. Yeah, because, and then it also gives me the ability, because like, you know, I get to jump into, oh, hey, you know, Gideon, can you do whatever?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it doesn't happen every day, obviously, because I've got like my sort of principal character, if you will, but it's like, yeah, to be flexible and malleable, and to be able to, you know, be some creature, and then, you know, we can do this, you know, and then, I don't know, do a little stunt or something or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's, yes, absolutely. So in terms of that, 100%, but also the fact that I've been a theater actor for 10 years too. But this is like the ultimate performance motion capture, I feel.
So then on the other side of that coin,
Yeah.
was there anything that you had to unlearn in terms of your training?
Horrific.
Yeah.
So I had to unlearn 4 years of playing to the back of a theater.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And for me, who was, excuse me, growing up a class clown, I'm like an animated guy, or I certainly used to be facially.
Yeah.
That was my authentic me. That wasn't, oh, Gideon's a bad actor. That was like my authentic me. It was just too big for film, you know? And then I was like, oh, man, I've got to really, you know, so I got into like an on-camera class here. And you bring your cassette in. It's like, okay, who's up next? We got Gideon, and you're working with Lisa. Okay, come on up. Give Barry, and like one of us would volunteer to run the camera each class. Doug Warhits was a teacher. That's not a good impression of his voice. Great though, great freaking guy, awesome. So we'd pop, you know, like pop a cassette in, and and then we'd get to, you know, do our scene, and then he'd give us an adjustment and stuff, and then you take your thing back. You take your cassette thing back, cassette tape, and then you play it, and you go, I thought it was great. You know those moments where as an actor you feel like you've done. I know a lot of actors know this. Most actors are like, man, that first take was the one. I don't know what or the second take, whatever it was. And you're like, I don't know what they're talking about. And you put it in, you're like, ooh, you know. And obviously this is why, you know, directors on camera don't want actors in, you know, Video Village and like looking over their shoulder and stuff. They're like, can I do another one? It's like, no, that's their decision. It's out of, you know, you got to do your thing. Trust them. They're going to, you know, between the director and the editor, they'll figure it out. But, yeah. So that I did have to unlearn for sure. Not everyone, you know, is as facially animated as I certainly was. But, I mean, I was that guy. I was like, hey, doing funny voices and eyebrows. And you're like, you can't, it does not work, you know?
Interesting.
But then you come to this.
Yes.
And, you know, you've got lots of folks who are like, this is all, you know, this is where it is. We're kind of keeping it here. But you can't have this dead, because then the animation's dead. You can't be stuck, you know, solid, because then the animation's dead. So you've always got to have like a little bit of life and stuff. So it's like I was allowed to kind of like feed a little bit back in once I first started doing mocap, and it was like, that feels good. You know,
I'm back home.
Yeah.
You just started talking about pcap and video game performance and mocap kind of naturally. So like, what do you see, especially since you've done VO, you've done TV, you've done theater. Yeah. What do you see, I guess, how do you compare performance capture to those mediums? What's different? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And just like, where do you kind of hold it amongst all of them?
pcap, I think, is the most challenging and the ultimate form of performance in a way. because it incorporates everything, you know.
I mean, that's what we think.
You know, no, but it really does. And it's not, you know, there's a steep learning curve. Like the first time I mean, even coming from like, definitely you're benefited coming from like a stage or theater background, you know, because, okay, I'm used to moving around in a, you know, space, and it's largely like, you know, black box or theater in the round, you know. And if your experience as an actor is largely on camera, you know, you very quickly realize, oh, it's like you can't go like, okay, we'll just pick it up or we'll just go for another take. It's like, no, you've got to be great. But also the pressure is on you in every take, whether you've got, you know, one line or whatever. Because it's not like, okay, well, we just need to get our master, then we'll come in for coverage. It's like, no, you're going to choose it after the fact, you know? And you want, ideally for, you know, the cost reasons and, you know, for animation, you know, one perfect take from everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not an easy thing to get.
Especially
you know?
when you have 8, 12 people in a scene.
100%, you know, and if you're working on camera, you know that there's like, you know, one take where like, you know, maybe somebody drops a line or something and it's like, oh, sorry, you know, so it's like, you've got to be so on your game here. And then obviously you've got the tech that you're trying to sort of be aware of, but at the same time, be organic and be in the moment.
Does the tech bother you?
No.
You're
I mean,
used to it?
yeah, I mean, I am now. I mean, I don't, you know, enjoy wearing a, you know, like a mocap suit, and you know, it gets hot and itchy, and like the helmet, you know, it's like, I mean, I don't have like this sort of perfectly round head. My sort of head goes like this and sort of chromaged and then comes in. So when, you know, they clamp it down, it's got to sort of really get into that thing, and it, you know, can ride up a little bit. So, you know, I usually have sort of a headache, you know, after 3 hours.
Yeah.
You guys are actually very good where you're sort of, you know, can often take, you know, the HMC off, you know, between scenes and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we try to make it comfortable for people. And it's, you know, it's difficult because it's like you can only do so much when you have that much gear on you.
Well, yeah. And then also it's like you don't want to have to then spend time, you know, okay, now we've got to like, you know, check it and stuff. And but I do think it's exciting, and I think this medium reminds me, not the tech aspect, but it reminds me of why I got into doing this, because I love playing, you know, and it's the fun of it. So it is a challenge, and I do like a challenge, whether it's in acting or whether it's, I don't know, even something like the car or something, you know, it's like, because it feeds like a part of my brain. I remember like during COVID, when obviously like we're not working closely together, so it's like, okay, we've got to find other things. And at the time I was living in a house and I had a garage and I had a few tools, and I started, you know, making stuff, and I made like a suspended flower bed thing to conceal our trash cans, which had to be on the side of the house, and they just, you know, looked like trash cans. And I found, you know, some, you know, inspiration online, as one does, you know, and then I went out to, you know, the depot and, you know, got some lumber, and I'm cutting stuff, and then it was getting dark. I was like, no, I'm going to finish this project tonight, you know? So I had like a headlamp, and I remember like taking a picture, and I'm like, you know, sawing away, and then I had my, you know, my jigsaw. I didn't have anything. I know it's like a circular saw, like a whole bunch of stuff, but just kind of making that. And then I was like, oh, and then I was going to put some old license plates on the back of the thing. And then, you know, laid some mulch and put some pretty plants in. And I was like, yeah, really proud of the, you know, and I realized it gave me almost as much joy doing that as acting does. You know, it evidently feeds the same part of my brain.
Well, on that note about being able to, like, pcap and mocap being a space where you get to play in it, kind of bringing back why you got into this. I guess I'm curious, when you are in the volume and when you are playing characters, when do you feel it's appropriate to, like, when do you find those opportunities? Like, when do you feel like it's appropriate to, like, improvise or make a bold, or like to make a bold character choice it's not in the script versus, okay, this is what's in the script, gotta stick to it?
It's interesting. I feel it varies, like with on camera, it varies production to production, you know? And I think you've got to be fluid and like read the room sort of thing. So, like, for instance, like my first on-camera job, legit on-camera job, like working on a series here in LA, was this show Commander-in-Chief. and Gina Davis was playing the president, and Donald Sutherland was the Speaker of the House, I think, was his role. Anyway, my scenes with him. I remember it was funny enough, it was kind of a similar sort of situation. Mr. Sutherland is there, I'm here, and then sort of perched on the back of the couch a little further down, perhaps, was Natasha Henstridge, who I knew from like Species. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working with these two people. And it's like, oh my goodness, she's like so gorgeous. And then Donald Sutherland, he's like a legend. And it was like really hard for me to like remember my lines and stuff. But I remember, in terms of going to what you're saying, changing stuff, lines, when it's appropriate, I think I contracted. Instead of saying it is, I said it's. And after that take, the script supervisor came over, and she, with her clipboard, and she was like, you said it's, and it is, because the writers are on set and stuff. And I was like, oh my Lord, and I am one of those actors who is very much, I'll do the lines as written, you know, unless there's something where I don't understand or it doesn't make sense to me, then I might say something. In terms of improvising, I guess it is also feeling the room. Like I've definitely done like mocap projects where it's like, no, there isn't that. I feel like here, and productions where you have, like basically the stuff I've done, at Rouge has been theatrically based, in the sense where like we have a warm up and that kind of stuff, which you never have on camera. Unless you're doing maybe an indie film and you have the luxury of that, perhaps.
Jeff's
maybe
big
you.
things.
And it's like the first time I experienced that was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This feels like I'm like doing theater. Or I'm back at drama school, and so I love that. So then I feel like in this sort of environment, there is the space, but also as well, like I'm always aware of like, where are we? Not as much as you are, because you're always watching the clock.
That's what I get paid.
Okay. We need to get along. Okay, we're good with that one. Okay, right. Let's move on to. I mean, you're so efficient. It's awesome. But so if I know that like we've done like a bunch of takes, and like I have an idea that occurs to me, it's like it's maybe not the time for me to share that. Unless I think it's going to massively change it for the benefit. It's probably more my actor ego going like, ooh, here's something where I think I could have a bit more fun with the character. But if it's the early stage and there is like a bit of dialogue, I might chirp in if something, comes to me. But I won't change up a line in a take, because if that affects your cue,
You're talking
the
about
other
from
actor,
like take 2 to take 3.
because it's not my goal is not to surprise my fellow performer, and I've worked with other actors who've done that even on stage, in a run of a play. Now I understand. What's nice is you're trying to find new stuff, if you're doing a play for a month or something, or touring, which I've done before. But it's like you've got to give your fellow performer the heads up, because otherwise you're throwing them, because the first thing you use like, because you're ready for that. Not that you're ready to deliver by rote, but you don't want to be thrown for that beat, and then have people see that beat of like, and then you get back on, oh, we've just taken a turn here. I thought we were staying on the 405. We've joined the 90.
You're like,
Okay.
wait.
Okay, that's cool. We're headed to Marina Del Rey now. Okay, you could have given me the heads up, but that's fine. But I would sooner do that if there's a conversation happening. As I try to be respectful of that. Yeah.
So I wanted to dive into the nuts and bolts of your acting approach. You mentioned theater, you mentioned your pcap work and on camera. And with the tech, this all has to come together. So it's like, is there a specific approach that you have to connecting with your characters, or getting into the shoes of the human being that you're trying to dive into? Is there
creature or robot?
Look, this is its own thing, and we should definitely come to that. But with like people or bipedal creatures, my thing has always been acceptance.
What do you mean?
So if you write the character that they do this, they look like this, they move a certain way, they make certain choices. This is the dialogue they choose to deliver in a scene. It's like, because like the writer's paid to write, that's not my job. My job is to maybe, go like, is it possible, could we maybe just tweak that one word or something like that? But otherwise, like, that's not my arena, I do write stuff, but I'm not employed to write for a production if I'm hired as an actor. So I will accept like if that's if that's their choices, you know, it's like I don't have to advocate for, well, I wouldn't or whatever. It's like, no, that's the thing. Now, if you've written a certain character and we understand it to be, let's say it's a plant, but now the plant's walking outside of a pot, you know, I might have a conversation about, well, wait a minute, because plants can't do that. So let's, you know, talk about that. But otherwise, my thing is just accept. It's like, accept it that that is how it is. And then it is to find that part of me that would be that person, you know, because within each of us is the capacity to be everybody. Like that, I mean, that has always been my thing, you know.
So making it personal and specific, is that what you're saying, or?
Yes, kind of, but it's like I don't do like substitution or something, you know. Like if my character is required to be emotional in a scene, you know, like, you know, if this is really devastating, you know, it's like I'm not tapping into, oh, if I think about that time when I lost my dad or whatever, it's like, no, this is the thing that makes me emotional, you know. This is a vulnerable thing. If this is the thing, then that's the thing which will trigger it for me.
And you look at your scene partner in the eyes.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay.
But I accept that that is the thing that will do it, you know. So somehow in my brain, that's what I've done, and it's really made it very, I mean, easy in a ways, you know. It's just like my complete acceptance of the role, and I think what sometimes we struggle with is if as people, you know, in the real world, you know, we struggle with being vulnerable, openly emotional, or angry, demonstratively angry, that kind of stuff, then it's hard to bring it into the work, you know. But I have no problem expressing anything, really, you know. Obviously, I'm not a wild, crazy person out there at, you know, CVS, you know, in aisle 5 when I'm trying to get deodorant and it's locked behind the glass and I got to push that button to get permission on aisle 5. But I know it's accepting that within me is the capacity to be the most vile, wretched creature, you know. I think a lot of times you go like, I don't know how they could do that or how she can behave that way or whatever. And it's like, no, there is always a way in, you know, if you sit with it. Now, absolutely ahead of time, obviously you're looking and, you know, sitting with the material and, you know, and it may not be, the writer may not have written it, right? A lot of the times, you know, especially with like TV, you're just getting like a little glimpse of something. So it's our job to come in some sort of 3-dimensional way as the person who's being interviewed and, you know, in the crime drama for that one scene who did something in the past or whatever. But it's finding, you know, which is also good, I suppose, with drama school. We you know, write biographies for characters and stuff. Like I don't do that, but I will find, you know, a way where it makes sense for me that this person would do it. Not that Gideon can be emotional in the scene, but that the character is written.
So now what you're talking about, is this like a specific method that you follow? I found some things online about the laser acting method.
The laser acting method.
I want to know about this laser acting method.
For a while now, I've wanted to develop it's a digital product as well, which might seem the antithesis of an acting approach, but it basically is about bringing that acceptance and authenticity to whatever you're doing, and I think once you free yourself of any judgment, not just of the character, because I think there's a lot of times like I don't want to play another R, you know, or another creepy whatever, because I'll turn down those kinds of things because I did them when I arrived here, and it's like I don't want to be a guest star playing a creepy whatever, especially as a dad to a daughter, especially, you know. It's like I don't need to do that. I do need to pay the bills, absolutely, but I will rather seek out something which doesn't do that specifically, unless it was on a freaking show and you know, that character got its comeuppance for sure, you know. Like I played like a awful, you know, a white supremacist character on SWAT, but you know, at the end of the day, he got his comeuppance, you know, and so I was fine with that. So the approach is basically going through a process where you find that acceptance of everything within yourself And once you can accept that everything exists within yourself, then if you don't judge yourself too, because I think a lot of times we judge feeling a certain way, like, why do I feel this way about that? I shouldn't, and then we carry all this, emotional baggage and this kind of stuff. But once you stop judging yourself, it doesn't give you the free rein to behave poorly, but it does give you access to those parts of yourself that otherwise might remain hidden. I'll have to watch this playback now because I was like, oh, that was a good phrase. That seemed very articulate. It wasn't a prep phrase, but yeah, so that's kind of the idea. And then there's sort of various modules. But ideally that as actors we can have then, for people who are searching for something, that's, if you've got your thing, that's great. Because I do feel like drama school, we learned, a bunch of different techniques and approaches and this kind of thing. But you also, you try it on for size, does the Speedo work for me, or would I rather wear shorts? It's like, I'd rather wear shorts.
Yeah.
That fits better. It's also going, like I'll take a bit of this, I'll take a bit of that. And along the journey, you discover what works for you. And it doesn't mean that it's a one size fits all approach, and so the idea of this is that there's something that's straightforward to do, and then once you've got it, it's something that's applicable regardless of the medium. That's really what I wanted to have, So whether it's here or whether it's on camera, and I don't talk about, necessarily even like breaking down characters. Like I'm not about scene study in this course.
So it's more internal focus.
Yeah. So LASER basically is an acronym, LASER, and it's love, accept, savor, emote, respond. I mean, I won't go too much into depth, but like love, and then it leads to listen as well. But love ultimately has to be the starting point for the most authentic part of you, whether it's on stage, whatever medium, or whether it's here doing this, or whether it's going and I got to pick up the groceries. And like that has to be the starting point, I think. I really do. I believe that, because with love comes listening, because then I'm going, projecting there, and now my focus is outside of myself. And also to be a good human in the world, it's like, I mean, this is sounding sort of, a little chouwa, but like, otherwise, what are we here for? We're here to experience, for sure, And so we're very lucky as actors and performers that we get to experience a lot of stuff that we would otherwise not. Some people go into acting as therapy. There were people at drama school who were like, oh no, they're working through some stuff and they thought, this is how I will do it, and I don't recommend that at all. I think that's very dangerous for sure, And also like, some teachers are like, oh yeah, let's do some emotional work and stuff. And like, not everyone's ready for it, Not everyone's ready to like, okay, now we're gonna go to the starting line and this is what we're doing decathlon. It's like, wait, but I don't want to jump the thing with a pole. No, I'm scared of heights. It's like, I'd rather just do the track.
The laser method, it sounds like, kind of focuses on kind of tools to kind of like be a foundation for everything that you just mentioned.
Kind of. I mean, it's not even necessarily a tool, I suppose. It's more like sort of an approach to freeing yourself from like sort of the BS. Because also as well, I feel like in performance and acting, there's a lot of mythology around it. What I've always has always rubbed me the wrong way is David was incredible. I mean, he really was the character, offset and on, I mean, after take, I mean, he was still the character, it's like, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. That is a purely indulgent thing, because if he was the character, you couldn't wrangle him. You wouldn't go, here's your mark. You wouldn't put him in wardrobe and makeup. You wouldn't then tell, he'd start speaking. You're like, no, sorry, cut the, you've got the script. You didn't learn the script. It's like, no, it's bollocks, Now, there's obviously, yes, you may want to sit in the thingy, but I do think it's like, when the thing's done, take it off and you go home. Otherwise, it is an indulgent thing, It's like, you can get some sort of relish out of it as a performer or as a human being. The same relish you get from like after a breakup, sitting it beyond a period of time where you're mourning, before you go back out into the world. But if you sort of hold on to it tightly, like this is the thing. It's like you don't need to. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like you don't need to have that thing. And I've played some dark stuff. You don't want to carry that home.
Yeah.
I've done 10 years in Hollywood playing bad guys, you know, and people relate to you as that character on set too.
Yeah.
They don't think that you're that in the way that someone watching a soap, you know, on TV might go, oh, I hate so-and-so, and they get like hate mail or something because they can't, you know, separate the actor from the role kind of way. But, you know, when people are, you know, miking you or even, you know, just generally moving around you on set, if you're playing a creepy character, they're going to relate to you in that way. They're going to be very like hands off. And if you do that for an extended period of time, it's not like, okay, you're doing it for a role for, you know, weeks or, you know, a couple months. Like you do that over time. It's like there is a thing. Like I became conscious of, for me at least, like this darkness that I was like carrying because that was the stuff I read for. So I was like sort of just sitting in it, like this residual funk of stuff. And it's not healthy, you know? I mean, I sat in something recently, not to do with acting, but some personal stuff. You know, I lost some people close to me and I wasn't even aware. I thought I was dealing with stuff, but I had like, you know, my wife tell me, it's like, it's time, you know, you know, I was sort of leaching out of me, you know, and guys, especially, you know, who are sort of grown up in a sort of an old fashioned, you know, like my dad was very stiff upper lip, you know, and you don't show emotion and this kind of thing. And it wasn't a military type, this is how it must be, or in that sort of fashion, if you will, like a hard thingy. But he just wasn't openly, you know, he wasn't like, we never hugged, you know, it was a handshake. So, you know. And so I think it's important. And also talking about, like, I'm a dad as well, and I know you are too. And I did have this sort of epiphany before becoming a dad, but there's also like, man, you just got to like open that stuff up, you know?
Because I'm sure too, you probably don't want your daughter like really knowing you as a character. I'm sure
No.
you would rather have her know you as you.
For sure. And then, yeah, if daddy's bringing, you know, his work home in an energetic fashion, and that's the thing too, is like we're always bringing our energy. So it's like, for me, you talk like, when is it appropriate to, on the mocap stage to I don't know, change up a line or something like that. It's like, I thought you were going to say, when is it appropriate to, you know, make a joke or something like that? Because I feel that a lot of what I do is doing some of that. But I do try to read, and like later in the day when I know it's not a forced thing, but I'll let that bit out because I know it's good for the communal energy too, you know? So it's like, hey man, we're going to get through it, and, you know, and that's usually how I do it, by keeping a good humor, you know?
Yeah, I remember on the when we worked on Jedi Survivor, we were at the old studio, which had a lot of planes come over. And I remember when we'd have to hold pretty much every single time, you take that opportunity to go into some sort of bit and make everybody laugh and take away the tension of the room. Which
and
was
then we
always
also, and then we also kind of like stay in it as a group, so that like, okay, now we're clear, great, okay, you know, that we're still here, and we haven't sort of, even if it is cracking a joke or whatever, but there's still, the energy still stays here, as opposed to wandering off and then let's just quickly check, you know.
And that being said too, and talking about characters and how you connect with them and everything, some people might not know, who are familiar with that franchise, that BD1 is actually played by you, and with BD1, who we have so wonderfully, I know we used
represented here,
on that game we used, this isn't the prop we used for that game, but this is one that Jen printed off, which is incredible. And I'm just curious, like, when you take a character like that, who can't verbalize words, and who is, you know, just a robot, can you kind of elaborate, how you crafted that character, how, like, what goes on through his head in these scenes, and also just kind of, if you can tell people how you do that performance, because it isn't something that we mocap you for. You know, you weren't in a suit. We had a prop with a little handle, and you were running around and playing with the actors. So just kind of, I guess, how do you play BD, and how did you find BD?
So super fresh to get a role like this, because this was the first time doing something like this, and initially, you know, when I got contacted, It's like, okay, so it's not gonna be like facial capture, and you won't be doing, and so I'm like sort of listening, and so initially like my ego was like, oh, there's not gonna be likeness, and it's like, no, there's gonna be no facial capture at all. Actually, we won't even stick you in a mocap suit, and then I'm like, all right, doing then, you know, because then it's like, but I'm an actor. I mean, am I acting? And then I was like, okay, so I'm kind of puppeteering, but it's also to have an organic thing, organic creature in its way, a droid as it happens, so that the other actors can interact organically with me, or with something. So that was really cool. And then also, like I said, I like challenges. You know, that's like, okay, so what can I do that's new with this? Because this is, I mean, how fresh, right?
Yeah.
So I did know that from conversations that it was going to be like beeps and boops, this kind of thing. So obviously we you know, reference in our heads like, you know, R2D2, and so initially, and what's good with the writing is I remember like the first script that I saw would have, you know, Cal says something like, hey, what do you see over there, BD? And then BD responds with, you know, beeps and boops, but then in parentheses will be what he means.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I love doing, I mean, I created, my goodness, there was a show called Hidden City in South Africa, a TV series. Many, many years ago, starring a guy called Brendan Pollicat, who this is now decades ago, but then he just directed a play, which is on this weekend in LA, which I saw last night, which is amazing to bring it like full circle. But for that show, he was the lead. I didn't book any like acting role, but I got brought in to create some languages, like character languages for these.
Nice.
They basically, the premise was these two young kids, two young boys. There's a plane crash and they survive. It's like a private plane, and only the kids survive. But they're in some remote jungle, and there's remote civilizations that live there, and there end up being like sort of 3 tribes, you know. So there was like the water people, there was like sand people, and something else. And so each of them had to have a distinct, you know, language and dialect or whatnot. And so there was the ones where, and the others were like, and I just came up with stuff, and then we would layer it, and then I would just chase picture and go like, okay, I'm doing that one there, you know, the bug over there, if you will, or whatever, you know. And that was like heaps of fun. And so for BD, then it's trying to bring like an emotional content to those beeps, you know. So it's not just robots, you know. And so it's so this is the stuff I was doing,
pitches and everything.
and then basically the marvelous actor Debra Wilson, like 1 week in, it was like early days. So she's on the shoot, obviously, and my gosh, I mean, apart from being a tour de force, I mean, what a generous human being she is. I mean, she comes in with gifts, and she's made like, actually I have something hanging in my car right now. One of the things, she always comes with like sort of necklaces and the wrap and stuff she's made, and some of them charge in daylight and glow in the dark. And literally I have one of those hanging from my
Is it the
rearview
Kyber
mirror
crystal she made for all of us?
Kyber crystal I gave to my kid. This is a glowy yellow circle.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it, right? And also love trinkets. It's terrible. And as a result, my daughter loves trinkets too, which drives my wife up the wall, because she's always picking things up like a magpie. But I've taught her that. It's like, oh, you did that. That's you. You know, it's like we like sort of point. I don't know if you have that with your wife. Like you see traits in your kid, and they're like, that's totally you.
It's your fault.
Yeah. So Debra was like, hey, nose whistle. That's what you need. Is a nose whistle. I was like, do you know that? It's from Africa. I'm like, you know, I spent 27 years in Africa. I've never heard of a nose whistle or nose flute. But anyway, so she's like, I'll bring one. Amazing. So like next time she comes in, she's got a nose flute, not this specific one, but so basically the idea is you exhale through the nose, and then you've got a little gap for the mouth as well. And the nose gap is going straight down. The mouth gap is sort of straight ahead, if you will. And you shape the note with your mouth as if you were going to sing, but without exhaling through your mouth.
Interesting.
So you leave it sort of unvoiced, but what's trippy about this is as you exhale through the nose, it'll make the note with the whistle. It's not, it's not a perfect, which is why you don't see it in concerts, or there aren't like nose flute albums that at least that I'm aware of, and perhaps why I didn't encounter it in the first, part of my adulthood. But basically, yeah, you can do tunes and that kind of stuff, but it's so perfect for the droid. So. And so that's basically, my language for BD, and obviously that's just a reference point, but it's nice because you can have an alert, you can have, I'm feeling sad, you can have, curiosity, there's a lot of this that you can play with a melody. And then, of course you can go, which he would never do.
But you do it on set.
But I've done that
remember
once.
you doing
I have done that
You
once.
have to.
And then there's other stuff where, to play something contemporary. So that's that. And then basically what I did is amazing. I managed not to drill through my hand. I drilled two, because first I was going around like this, and I was like, this is great, but I just got one hand to operate BD, and sometimes you need two, and so then I made an elastic. I fed an elastic. I'm going to make a sandwich for you. I fed an elastic through this, and then I basically walk around like it's like Hannibal Lecter light, right?
It's so much.
It's like, hello, Clyde. Have the lamb stopped crying?
And then you go to an adorable
so that's-
BD immediately.
Yeah, I mean, and what fun. And then also, I mean, what I realized is Cameron, who plays Cal, does tend to fresh mint in the scenes. But I mean, he's the lead character, he's the player character, so he has the freedom to do that, and he's so damn good.
Yeah.
He's such a good actor, and he's freaking smart too.
Yes.
I mean, like when he has an idea, it's like it's usually worth listening to. And anyway, so he might change direction. Now, most of the time, I'm like on his shoulder, and then I scamper off, as you know. So I'm doing this, but then I'm doing a lot of like crouchy stuff, which is why physical warm-up's important for me, maybe more than most of the actors, because if you're not ready for a deep squat, just spontaneously because Cameron makes a choice to, okay, now I'm going to move in this direction, and I can't like bump into him or his helmet cam. So it keeps me extra aware and
No, it's always a pleasure watching you play BD. And I think just to kind of elaborate on the point of how effective finding a method to bring that character to life. Like I remember on Survivor, when people saw you perform as BD for the first time, even the crew, that was something where everybody was like, oh my God, he is so adorable, because like the nose flute and everything just communicated so well and really made him come to life.
Well, also full credit to Tom Keegan for bringing me in and saying, do you want to take a stab
Oh,
at
did
this?
he ask you to be BD?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
he's like, like I've got this, there's this character and stuff, and I mean, it's very rare that I get brought in for stuff. Quite honestly, I mean, most of my stuff I audition, but and we'd worked together on Wolfenstein, and Battlefield 3 was the first mocap job I did.
Oh, that was your first one?
Yeah, but that's like 2011 or something maybe. But I'd done like a ton of game VO up to that point, which was also good. Where it's like there's so much luck in this game. This is the thing too. It's like somebody was at an awards thing. I sort of hate watching award thingies, typically speaking, because I feel like there's people who really should have been recognized. I'm not speaking for myself. It's not the stuff I would be nominated for. But if somebody said, I think in their acceptance speech, it's like, I'm only up here because someone took a chance on me. And it wasn't because they discovered them in some, large mass casting, like they've been working for years and years, and it is that thing. And I think they were sort of speaking to, younger up and coming performers, that it is only because someone's given you a break somewhere along the way, and the list is, is long for sure.
That being said, because you do touch on an important point, and this is something Jeff and I like to elaborate on, where it's like, it's really about the connections you make in the industry. And it's not the sense of like a connection that's going to help you, at least in our eyes. It's not about making connections that are going to help you, but it's about making connections that you genuinely care about.
Right.
And
100%,
that being said,
100%.
how do you approach like relationships in the industry, and not just like one thing you're really good at, which not every actor is you'll see that they just really care about getting to know like their castmates or the director, and not so much like the crew or you know, the people who are helping them park in the lot. But you're somebody who it seems like, and in my experience working with you, you are very good at connecting, and it seems like you are genuinely interested in getting to know everybody.
And I mean, I just want to be genuinely, you know, authentic with everybody, and also recognize everybody. You know, and that's also part of the my pitch with the laser method too. Is like, it's like, in order to be authentic as an actor, you have to be authentic as yourself. So if you deny parts of yourself, or you're a bit of a dick, it's like, yeah, you can probably play like nice dad on TV, you know, fine. But it's like, but there's going to be something a little bit more, you know, if you're genuinely, you know, in touch with that person yourself. And also, it's like, you don't know anyone's story, you know. This is like a meme, right? But like, you don't know. Everyone's got some, you know, bag of something they're carrying today. You just don't see it. You know, everyone from, you know, someone packing the bags at the grocery store, or, you know, the parking attendant somewhere, or whatever, you know, a friend of a friend who you just saw who looks all like swag or whatever, you know. It's like, you don't know. Maybe they just lost their mom or something, you know. It's like, you know, we have no idea. I know I've got a lot of stuff, you know, that's there, and I can bring it to the surface if I, you know, if I need to tap into the emotion, not because of that, but because I'm in touch with that, you know. And it kind of needs to be living here for me to stay in touch with it, because when I buried it away, which I did in the, you know, first part of my life, it wasn't good for me, you know. But yes, I do think I've never been a networker. I'm terrible at it. I'm not dissing networking, but it's like, I went to like, I think I've been to like one Hollywood party, you know, in 20 some years in town. And that was because it was a friend of mine who married a plastic surgeon thing.
So it wasn't even because of a job or anything like that?
No, no, you know, I don't know, but also I'm not super comfortable with that, you know. And I also don't really have I can chat the ear off people, as you're discovering now, but I don't have and, you know, maybe it's also sort of I also kind of, there's also still that thing in the back of your head where you're sort of waiting to be found out. Oh, you're not really that good, or you're not really whatever, you know. And there's also the sort of second-classy citizen thing, which, I don't know, you carry as an actor a little bit sometimes. You know, it's like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm an actor. You know, it's like, I mean, what is that? The body language, you know, it's like, why are you apologetic? So yeah, I don't. And also I don't know. It's like, what do I do? It's like, I mean, like I saw Natalie Portman in a park maybe 5 months ago, and she's sitting on a bench, and I was like as close as we are, and she's, I think she was on her phone or reading a book or something. And there were other people in the park. Well, I wasn't like, conscious of the fact, like, I'm like, it's just me, and then I would feel extra creepy, you know. And I've played lots of creeps, so I'm like, I try to be conscious of not, you know, not because I played those creeps, but it's like, maybe that would have been a great networking opportunity. I like said hello, and she was like, oh, hey, you know, and then you sort of strike up a conversation. And it's like, you know, I'm going to get coffee. It's like, don't tell me you go to that thing, because I'd seen it at the coffee place one other time as well. Did not make contact. She was with her parents at the time. Look at this is becoming a Natalie Portman story. But in terms of the networking-y whatever, it's this sort of thing. It's like you talk and you have a conversation, and like maybe you have a, you know, great interaction with somebody who's not furthering your career. It's like, because that's the thing. I think what's dangerous, especially in the film industry or show business or whatever, is there's a lot of like, let's get to, you know, it's like, because maybe one day, you know, and there is a lot of that, unfortunately, still, I think, you know. And if you are just pursuing the work for the purpose of creating good stuff and collaborating with people, then that's great. And then if you go like, hey, listen, I don't know if you're interested, but like, I'm working on this thing and whatever, and like, and you were saying you operate cameras sometimes or whatever. Like, so I'm just like making stuff up, you know. It's like, I mean, I don't know, like if you do like side projects and stuff, but I've got this thing. Can I send you the thing or whatever? You know, then it becomes an organic kind of whatever. Or you get to know someone, and after a period of time, they give you a shout and go like, hey, I know you mentioned something or other, you know.
I mean, that's how this came about. It's because we worked together, you know, for 100%. What, 2.5 years back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's
no, 100%. I mean, I've got like maybe 2 other gigs, or a couple other gigs like that, like one was someone I met, I did happen to meet socially, but through mutual friends and chatted, but I'm not like, oh, so-and-so's a producer, so then I'm like, I'll spend like as much time as possible until it feels awkward. It's like, I'm usually like the opposite, like, nice to meet you, and then I, go get a coffee or something, and talk to someone I really do know. But, several years later, they called me like, oh man, I'm having a problem casting this one role. It's shooting over here. Are you available? And I'm like, I totally am. Totally am. Do you need to put myself on tape or whatever and stuff? And I ended up doing the gig, all working for a showrunner. 2 specific showrunners have brought me in for projects after I've worked with them on other things previously, which is incredibly generous, and then also it's kind of, it's validating too, to, you as a performer going like, oh, that's great, because I thought I did good work on that thing, but, maybe it's all up here or whatever, so it's nice to, but then it's organic.
Throughout this entire time of acting, has there ever been a point in your career where you questioned if it's worth continuing?
LA.
And LA, so like for you, it's LA.
Yeah. No, I mean, because here's the thing. I was blessed that I started working, in my 3rd year of drama school, at the end of that 3rd year, So then by 4th year, I was doing commercial VO, because in your thesis year, you have a lot of free time where you're meant to be like working on your thesis and stuff. But I had time during the day to go and do like a voice session. Like a commercial VO session could be like 30 minutes, maybe an hour tops if client is there and they want to change copy or something. But, there was time to work that around my studies. So when I got out of drama school proper, stuff was happening. And LA, when I first arrived, I gave myself 5 years. And my own phrase was make it happen. Make it happen wasn't become a star. Make it happen was like sort of be, making a living. Now I'm working here like I was in South Africa. And, after a year, I mean, it's brutal when you arrive in LA as an actor. It's like, oh my gosh, it's huge. And where do we even start? And I've been working for 10 years as a professional, but I can't join the union because those credits don't count for anything. So now I'm seeking like background work to get my stubs. It's like, jeepers, man. And I'm already like 10 years older than some other folks who are like just starting out, right? I'm already 30 when I arrived here, and then I feel like just such a noob. And so I remember thinking like, okay, 3 years. If I can survive 3 years, then I can make 5, and that's turned into 20 odd. So there's been a couple moments, but I've been very fortunate, and video games have been my bread and butter for sure. In the same way that VO was my bread and butter back in South Africa. I could do a play a year, maybe 2 plays a year, but theater doesn't pay great. It doesn't, unless you're doing some huge production or something.
On like
so
Broadway or something like that.
And that is what it is. But I've been so blessed with voiceover, and I'm blessed with the voice that I happen to have, which is very similar to my dad's voice. And I was very lucky in South Africa at the time when I started working in commercial VO that it was a voice that sort of cut through the mix, as they like to say in LA. So it's like timing, and even in the video games, so then I did lots of accents. So, okay, video game fits because then you could do a bunch of characters in one game. Then there was a move to go to theatrical talent agents, on-camera agents, to find the talent to play the roles in pcap. But I'd been doing, 10 years of VO in games, and I was an on-camera talent. So I was getting it, from both sides sort of thing. And I had the experience in both sort of things. So it seemed to work, because I mean, certainly there's I've been on mocap sets where, seasons like recognizable on-camera talent has come in and battled, in the suit, because there's a learning curve. It's like you can't just step into it like you can. Okay, it's a different set, different director. Hey, I know my lines. So, I got my thing, and I've done my prep. But it's like you step on here, and suddenly you're like, oh gosh, and you've touched a truss, or and then you've got this, and you're trying to come in and do like an intimate scene, and now you've got to negotiate that, and then oh, there's this, and then if you hear the fan go on, the pack, and you're like, oh, are they going to stop for sound? And like, no, they haven't stopped for sound. They got back in the moment. Wait, what's my line? There's so much to think about, and you can't pick it up like this. You can't. Even, you definitely have something in your pocket if you've worked on stage for sure. Because there's a lot of overlap, but there's a learning curve for all of us.
I was going to say, so that first PCAP experience.
Yeah.
So Battlefield 3, right?
Well, Battlefield 3 was the first leading role, I guess. Yeah. So I'd done a couple things before then. But
so there's a fun little fan thing between me and you.
Oh, how was that?
So I was in Battlefield 1.
Huh.
I played Clyde Blackburn.
Wow. So he's related?
There's a fan theory out there that
because I'm Blackburn too.
Yeah, Henry Blackburn.
Yeah.
That Clyde may be your great-great-grandfather.
You've aging well.
Look at isn't it
I'm
crazy?
not quite sure how you look younger than me, but whatever that cream is, it's behind the lock thing in CVS. I have to press the button.
You have to press the button.
But just give me after the fact. Don't tell everybody.
So there's a fun little thing out there. But I'm just so curious, being one of your first lead roles for PCAP.
Yeah.
You talked about the transition of how big actors struggle to get into the suit and get into the volume.
Yeah.
What was it for you? You were in this huge franchise working with Tom, who was the guy that put me that took a chance on me as well.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for him. You all of a sudden have this role. You're the person that we're following.
Yeah.
How did that transition happen for you? What was there something? Was it just going back to your theater roots? Was it?
Yeah, I guess
we have the tech. We have all that kind of stuff. How did you break through that barrier?
So a couple of points to address. Number one, a big franchise, this kind of thing. That doesn't mean anything to me, and I don't mean that in a funny way. Usually, I'm ignorant of this. That's really what I mean. I did Balthier in Final Fantasy 12, just voice, right?
He also did Fenris in Dragon Age, which is
so those are kind of bigger roles, which had a big impact on the
video game community.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say people who play games. Video game community. So I didn't know because Jack Fletcher directed that, and he cast me in that, and I auditioned for it and whatnot. But he said, "Do you realize, when this comes out, you'll probably get a lot of fan mail and this kind of stuff." I'm like, no, this is a big franchise. It's going to be a big game. And I'm like, well, that's cool. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to play, and and then obviously there was some stuff, but even now, years and years later, that was maybe 06 or something, Final Fantasy 12, I think, and there's still at the odd convention, people will come up with oh, you're Balthier, or people send me a message through some fan email address, and so I'm ignorant to that stuff.
Yeah.
Geez, it took me a long time to answer the question. This is why I'm given scripts. This is why I don't change the lines. So theater definitely helped, but that particular game was even more challenging. Because earlier days of mocap, right, as well. So then it's dots on the face. The first thing I did, I think they painted on dots for that, but I remember the earlier stuff I'd done, maybe House of Moves or something, and then I did something down in San Diego, actually, which Tom directed, but he had nothing to do with I'd been cast by someone else, and he'd come in to fix some stuff or whatever, and these were pickups, and I was playing some other character, and we don't even remember each other from that game. It was really fleeting. But then I remember after the fact, I remember looking up Tom and going oh my God, you did the thing, and I did it. And I remember I drove down to San Diego. But I was Malcolm McDowell was a character in the movie or something, and this was a game of the movie or something like that. I can't even remember the name of the game. But there's him, and he's like this, and he's being held, on life support. They would ask him questions, but he was the nemesis or whatever. And so I remember I was just, most of it was me sort of in this thing, and not much actual body performance to do, but I remember doing the voice for that. But anyway, that was when you stuck on the
actual
dots, and then half the time I'd be inhaling one. You're oh yeah, oh, I've got one of those. Sorry guys, mark it down. I don't know where it came off. For Battlefield 3, we would do a 2-day split, or like a half-day splits, but it would roll into 2 days. So basically, we would shoot pcap in the morning. In the afternoon, we would do facial capture for what we had pcapped yesterday.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because they weren't, I guess that particular rig didn't, we didn't have it was for the VO. No, they were capturing faces, forgive me. They were capturing faces in the pcap, but the VO they weren't happy with, maybe rustling and that kind of stuff. So we would do the VO, but also facial capture because we had the luxury of doing it in the afternoon. But it had to match the timing of the pcap. So we had an earpiece to hear the timing, and then we would have to go in with ourselves, but then they would drop us out. So we had like a little space to do our lines. But then the eyes had to be true too. And we couldn't be watching a monitor and then go, okay, now I'm turning here, because then it's messing up the very thing you're trying to capture. So Tom had a pole, a ball boy or whatever, that was that phrase.
Ball stick. Yep.
Ball stick. Yep. So basically, tennis ball on the end of a long pole. And he would stand sort of there, and tennis ball, obviously, because it's bright, and we'd be sitting here. We had to be locked ahead, earpiece here, waiting for the thing for your line, try and be, true and filmic in the vocal, trying to be normal in the face and stuff and whatever. And then he'd be watching the monitor and swinging the stick back and forth. And then responding to that, have to be looking because, in the scene, maybe you've moved here and now you're looking there. But then you're throwing a look there. So it's, oh my gosh, it was this. It was so hard. I remember
that's a
but
fun
it was
of
amazing.
making video.
It was amazing. And it was also pretty cool because there were literally just 3 of us, 3 actors doing most of those scenes. Most of the cut scenes were, interrogation scenes,
And your American was spotless.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I thought my American was, look, I'd play like Americans, before I moved here, but then, you sort of arrive and you go like, oh, I need to tweak that, like those words or whatever, where you've Americanized them, or whatever. And like stuff which would, like, I remember one word specifically surprised me, which was avocado. It's like, if I were to read it in a book, I'd go like avocado. Why wouldn't you go avocado? Or Colorado, I don't know. There's some words where it's like, I feel like they want to lend themselves to the, But anyways.
As an American, I think that's so fascinating because I always forget that we have accents.
No, but this is also funny. Like I'd go into like castings, but if it was specifically for, like I learned early on, go in with the accent of the role, because oftentimes then back in the day, where you went into a casting office, you'd actually leave your home and there would be a person and you would be reading live. It wasn't this new tech where you film everything yourself and send it off into the ether. And they would have like a lot of, I don't know, it feels like episodic TV castings. Like, any questions before we start, which is great. But I would always go like, oh, let's leave it to the end. And unless I had like, it's like, I didn't understand this bit. Like, why is he like suddenly so angry? It's like, oh, okay, that's because blah, 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 this happened. But I realized what I would do is I'm coming in with me, which is what I've been talking about. But if I'm coming in with me going like, yeah, I just, so is she his sister? It didn't stipulate that. And she's like, yeah, he's a brother. And it's like, okay, great. Okay. And whenever you're ready. Hey, so, I don't know if this is where we're meant to be, but then the problem is then they're going, wait, he was just British and now he's American, and then am I hearing something?
Yeah.
I don't want to sow any seeds of doubt. Don't, it's like that old idiom, don't give them any reason not to cast you.
You stay in the accent then.
Yeah, for sure. Even if I'm having conversation and stuff, if I'm going in as Russian dude or whatever it may be, it's like go in as that. And I mean, look, afterwards, then if there's a Q&A and you can drop it, then it's a nice little, it used to be a bit of sort of special sauce. That special sauce is gone now.
Yeah. Maybe it can come back.
Maybe it can come back. But I do miss in person. I know a lot of actors are like, oh, it's so much easier because like not many actors enjoy auditioning. I love auditioning. I love it so much because I love acting. And then, it's also like you very quickly embrace the fact that you're going to be auditioning more often than you're working, So here's your chance to play.
I will say this has been such a fun conversation.
I was about to look at my watch, kind of like, I've been prattling on for forever.
No, it's lovely.
We'll do a series.
Yes. No, I would love to have
come
you
back in another decade.
But one thing that Jeff and I love to ask is at the end of essentially the last question is, I guess, like, you know, essentially you have free reign. Is there any topic you would like to discuss or kind of end with, whether it's, or reiterate on, whether it's something we've already talked about or whether it's something we haven't touched on? And it can relate to pcap or anything. Essentially, like, you know, is there anything, do you have any parting words of wisdom?
I mean, there's the global thing which we're all dealing with. There's a national thing which we're all trying to process. I think the battle now is trying to find time for you and the people who you love, but also still, you know, share and spread what, you know, is your truth, and call out, you know, the wrongs of the world, sort of thing, you know. And I think that's really important. I think if you have a platform, you know, and I have a little platform on social media, and I feel like you can't not, you know. I mean, I'm not going into a big political discussion. But the world has become more nationalistic generally, you know, and, you know, the more we do this, and this is mine, and this is it, you can't have it, you know, and or I should have this, it's okay that I have that, and you can't. It's like, why? You know, it just makes us just, I don't get it. And I don't, if you are part of a family, if you have a family, if you have parents, if you have siblings, and especially if you have children, it's like, how can you look at other human beings or other children in the world and not feel connected and empathy? Empathy is everything, you know. I have a problem with, you know, the sort of the anti-woke, the sort of thing. I think you can get to a point where it's like, look, you know, I don't want to call myself Palm, and then, you know, I shouldn't have to call you Palm, or it's not a palm tree, but you know what I mean. So you can sort of push these things a little bit far, perhaps, but it's like, what you do is your own business. You know, if you're not hurting me, that's your business. It's like, shouldn't that be like the thing of life? It's like, and it is that kind of mutual respect and love. Just love freaking being here. You know, it's like I'm like I feel like I'm chatting to everyone in the change room at gym, but I don't chat to people while I'm working out, I guess is the thing, you know. But just love, man. It's just lead with love, and it's hard sometimes. It really is hard. It is super hard. It's hard in personal relationships too, but if you can just like sort of take a breath and reset and not be in reaction. So like back to my LASER acronym, it's like, you know, people go, oh, acting is reacting. It's like, no, if you're in reaction to everything, you are a pawn. You are not in control. You know, I'm reacting to people on the 405 as I'm stuck in traffic screaming or whatever inside my car. You can respond, and that is your choice how you respond, right? You know, to a given thing. And so it's just sort of giving everyone a, you know, space to be themselves and space to also not be perfect, you know. Give yourself space not to be perfect, and forgiveness. Like I've had to do like a lot of forgiveness. Like my dad died a year ago. It kind of suddenly he got sick, and then suddenly he was intubated, and then he was gone in a couple of weeks. And I had to deal with guilt of not having spent more time, because he was living back in South Africa and I'm here pursuing this career and had been for, you know, a long time. And I didn't go back near as often as I think I should have. But I've got to like forgive myself for that and make peace with it. And that's hard for us to do as humans. You know, especially when we feel deeply. And I think people who do feel deeply and who have empathy, it's a very hard time right now to kind of move through the world. But obviously you take your blessings that, you know, you're not, you know, dealing with famine or in a war zone, or, you know, I'm not going to be profiled as a 50-year-old white guy, you know. So yeah, just try and sort of fight the good fight, but just be a good human.
I just love what you were saying. Someone who feels so deeply, someone who has so much love, someone who's a father, who's dealt with loss. How does that affect, how do you separate the human and the actor? Does that affect your choices in the work you do? Like what's happening in the world right now? And being a parent in this current situation, you know, I'm a parent as well.
I try to separate that, shield her from the bulk of that, but she's aware of what's going on, sort of thing. But it is hard. I mean, and also going back to like sort of trying to be a good dad and this sort of stuff. I mean, because there's things like I can be a terrible human being, you know, and I'm making mistakes every single day. But that's also part of like, you know, acting too, is like you have to put yourself out there and, you know, you're making the best choice with that information in a given moment. Like my dad made a terrible choice to go back to the UK and then return to South Africa because he lost everything. And then he went back there, and then the place we had, you know, then the economy had improved in like the, you know, best part of a year that we were gone, and now we had to move like way out, you know, and I had to take like the bus to school, and it was like an hour and stuff and whatever. It's like, so what? That's not a big thing. There's people who fucking walk miles to get water. It's like, shut up, right? But like I remember, you know, myself and my mom kind of, you know, regretting that. You know, it's like we had dogs, you know, and like she had to like give her dogs away, and my mom's such an animal person. Like he was making the best choice for his family in that time, you know. It's like, but at least if you could be making those choices from a good place, kind of thing. And certainly in terms of roles, if you have the luxury to choose or turn down something, absolutely. I don't want to do stuff that's just horrible and creepy and whatever and stuff. I want my kid to see some of the on-camera stuff I've done before I'm too old, you know, because it's like I can't show her pretty much hardly anything that I've done on camera. Because I've been a bad guy. I've been killing people, or I've been getting beaten up and stuff and whatever. She's 7. She doesn't need to see that. You know, she certainly doesn't see her dad getting, you know, beat up or doing horrible things to other people. That's a bad example. You know, I don't want to be that role model. So, yeah.
To wrap up the show, are there any last words of wisdom that BD has?
BD, you've been the one thing about BD is he's an incredible listener. And whether, you know, I mean, we know the light is still on, but he hasn't blinked for a while, so he may have some scumpling issues. I don't know. But BD, what do you say? Have you enjoyed being here? Said, well, it's been kind of cool, but you didn't ask me any questions. But this is your question, BD, and we love you, and we thank you for you know, for being here and for letting me be your buddy, your side buddy, your living, breathing buddy. Said, oh, I love you too.
Oh.
And BD, where should we direct people to find Gideon or? Instagram.
It's like a big thing. So yeah, you can find on Instagram. I lost my name. Someone else took it, which there's only one of me. But anyways, Instagid on Instagram. That's where I'm most vocal. And GideonEmery.com is my go-all place. You can go to The Voice of Gid, which is largely voice and motion capture stuff, and then laseractingmethod.com for the acting.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Gideon, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for bearing with me.
Of
Good
course.
stuff. It's nice to share.
Yeah, and hopefully we have you again. So
We love hearing your story.
Look forward to it.
yeah.
Yeah.